Heya folks, welcome back to the other half of the macros tutorial for your other half, the pet macros tutorial. Depending on which pet you use, your toolkit and playstyle could change quite a lot. I'm not going over which pet I recommend you use in today's video, but I will go over some macros meant for specific kinds of pets. Alright, let's get into first things first, pet movement control macros. There are three primary commands you'll want to use to control your pet: attack, follow, and stay. Attack first. You should always keep your pet on passive and confirm your pet's target with an order to attack. This will prevent ass pulls and improve your responsiveness as a player. Get into the habit of giving your pet this order as soon as possible, and before long, you'll be able to micromanage your pet in incredibly useful ways. As for the macro itself to give this order, there are a few components I should bring up. Obviously, you want the auto-targeting function and the necessary function to order your pet to attack. However, an attack is not just about, attacking. To make the most of your pet, you can micromanage its use of certain abilities. Therefore, we'll add commands to cast charge, dash, or dive in this attack macro. That way, the beast will use its speed up strategically as a tool to engage the enemy. You should leave it off autocast so it doesn't use it pointlessly during combat. The way this is written causes your pet to use dash or dive only when you're sending it at a target, and you shouldn't need the same conditions for charge, since it's a targeted ability. It also includes a mouse over override. You may need to tap the macro twice to get it to work all the time, but having the function is really useful. There are more functions in this attack macro, but we'll talk about those later. The gist you need to know is that it orders your pet to attack your target or mouse over, and it will micro the use of your pet's speed boost. All I will say about the other functions is that there's a reason it's target enemy no exists and not target enemy no harm. If you target your pet or a friendly, you can force your pet to spam claw on its target without activating dash, or lightning breath without dive, otherwise your pet will activate dash while you try to order it to spam claw, like you can see right here. There's no distance check condition in this API, so this is about the best we can do for this sort of thing. I'd say to get the most out of it, you could target your pet and use mouse over only for new engage, then spam your attack key and it'll take care of the claw lightning breath thing. That's just for whatever niche purpose you might want that for. Like I said, we'll talk about the practical purposes of Thunderstomp Micro later. Let's move on. Follow is a particularly useful command for yanking your pet away from danger. You'll be using this command on fights like Battleguard Sartura in AQ, or Abomination Wing Trash in Nax. You can ping-pong a serpent between yourself and your target to make use of its lightning breath. Not that you don't want to keep it in melee for its auto attacks too, but if you can't, here you go, here's what you do. We can use a dash or dive command in the follow macro to pull it out of harm's way, but we don't want it to happen if the pet isn't in any danger. So where those same commands would only activate when your pet is ordered to engage a target in the attack macro, we use a combat condition in the follow macro to make sure your pet doesn't use it while you're just trying to get a position somewhere before a fight. The third primary macro we need is a stay retreat macro. A stay macro is for your pet's positioning, so you can use it to attack something from an angle or reposition something further away from you, as shown here. It's especially useful in fights like Firemaw or Chromagus, where you can keep your pet in a safe location closer to the boss than you would have to stand. Sending your pet back to such a location is also easy to do in a stay macro. Like in the follow macro, this stay macro also casts dash or dive if in combat. But why would you need it if you're telling your pet to stay? Well, that's because this macro doubles as a way to make your pet retreat to that location that you set. To set a location, simply use the stay macro while out of combat, or target a friendly, like your pet, to force it to stay even in combat. While in combat, and not targeting a friendly, using this macro will force your pet to retreat to that location by setting it to passive. The pet will return to your side if it's set to follow and doesn't have a designated stay spot. There are conditions to dash and dive to prevent it from using them while attempting to force stay. And there you have the primary three macros you'll need to control your pet's movement. They're the most important ones, so get used to them. Let's talk about secondary commands now. For pet maintenance, we have quite a lot of things to press. We can use modifiers to add even more stuff to one spot on your bars, but I'm going to give you the way I have it set up. Here's the Call Pet Dismiss Pet macro. Simple, easy, let's move on. The next one is Revive Mend. Sometimes your pet will be dismissed and you can't call him because he's dead, but you need to revive him. So this macro here will use Revive Pet if you don't have your pet out, or if your pet is out but dead. And if your pet is out but alive, then it'll cast Mend Pet. Here's a one-button macro for Feed Pet. Keep it on your ring menu if you've got it. It fits just fine there. There are your secondaries for maintenance. Now, if you really want to go ham, you micro your pet's individual abilities. This may sound scary, but let's go over them. The most important of your tertiaries, at least while leveling up, is Growl. Growl is an important ability for your pet that can allow you to micro its threat for just the right positioning and timing. So here's my macro for Growl. Now, there are two things in this macro you may have noticed in prior ones. There's the pet target parameter, and it turns Growl off autocast. I don't know if anyone else has this problem, but sometimes my pet's Growl comes back on autocast for no reason, so that's why that's there, makes it easier. Anyway, the big thing in that macro is the pet target parameter. Basically, it will only cast Growl at your pet's target. This allows you to keep on top of multiple enemies simultaneously, casting Growl on one while you use auto shot on another. If you'd like more of a demonstration on this, check out episodes 17 or 23 of the Classic Hunter series, Simply Grinding or True Hybrid Style, respectively. I will provide links to both of these episodes during the outro. Another tertiary pet control function you might want to add to other macros is control for your pet's focus dump. Remember how in the pet attack macro I had cast commands for stuff like Claw, Screech, or Lightning Breath? Macroing such things to your various abilities allows you to spam those focus dumps while doing your normal rotation. However, if you stop, then your pet can regenerate a bit more focus, allowing for stuff like Bite to be cast, or allowing for the focus or GCD to use, say, Dash on a cat for something other than Engage. Because, remember, cats are one of the least responsive pets in the Trinity. They'll rarely have the focus or the GCD for Dash, or Bite for that matter, because they're dumping all their focus into extra sustained damage in the form of Claw. Dash is mostly used for Engage on cats, not for Retreat. So by microing a focus dump like Claw, you're better prepared to order that Retreat or get the harder hitting but 10-sec CD Bite off. Although you could put the commands in any macros you often use, I have these commands bound only to Auto Shot and Pet Attack. If I want to use Multi-Shot or Aim Shot, they're part of the rotation and Auto Shot will be going anyway, so in combat my Auto Shot macro effectively becomes only a focus dump spam macro. You could also micro Claw on, say, a Scorpid. Leave its poison on autocast, but command Claw manually. That's for you PvPers out there who want to screw with Abolish Poison, but still benefit from a bit of Claw damage too. Anyway, the raiding trinity, wolves, cats, wind serpents, is a subject for another day. If you want more information on it, I'll go over it some other time, or you can find notes about them in the pinned posts in the Pet Theory channel on the Ravager Den Discord server, linked in the description. The last thing I want to cover today is some incidental tertiary pet control macros. Specific pet abilities you might want to control with a macro, and where you might want to control it. Perhaps the most obvious incidental ability is Furious Howl. Wolves use their burst DPS to compete with pets with focus dumps, like cats and wind serpents, and their most notable burst ability is Furious Howl. Ideally, you want to pop Furious Howl on an entire group of melee DPS so they can get a bit more oomph on their next hit. But wolves can be gimped on fights where your group may be in a bunch of different places, like on Cthulhu or Four Horsemen. You'll also want to make sure that your wolf's Furious Howl gets onto the melee anytime it can. Some hunters prefer to put their Furious Howl on another ability, like Raptor Strike for instance, so you can melee weave with it. Multi-Shot is a good ability to put Furious Howl with, since they have identical cooldowns, but Multi-Shot does have a 0.5 second cast time, so it will get a bit desynced. My suggestion is to replace your keybind for Growl instead. You'll be using Growl on the way up, but you have no need for it in raids, so the keybind is free for other abilities you want to micromanage. Another noteworthy incidental is Shell Shield. Note that turtles are not my recommendation for tanking anything because even though they are heavily armored, they lack threat generation. Instead, use a carrion bird with Screech since they have the highest armor mod of any beast family that can learn Screech. Anyway, if you do have a turtle and want to micro its use of Shell Shield, you could do it to, say, kill Rotgrip more easily in Maraudin farming using the hybrid tank strat. That basically involves you tanking Rotgrip until you can't anymore, then using Feign Death to dump your threat. Your pet will have plenty of aggro by then, even if it is a turtle, and that will be a good place to use Shell Shield when Rotgrip swaps to your turtle. Side note, you can kite Rotgrip out of his pool on Official Classic, so it's not like you need to tank him anyway, but tanking and spanking would be the fastest way to kill him. If you're looking for a Prowl macro for Night Elves, this macro will use Prowl and Shadowmeld and can be safely spammed. Enjoy! The last incidental I want to touch on is Thunderstomp, a unique ability used by gorillas. Like with Furious Howl and Shell Shield, I'd recommend dropping it on the bind formerly used by your Growl, but maybe you do want to use it in open world farming. What then? Well, in that case, I recommend keeping it grouped up with either your melee bind or, more appropriately, your Ravager bind. That way, you can keep Growl where you want it and still micro Thunderstomp without creating yet another bind. And with all of that said, this concludes the Pet Macros tutorial. Thank you all so much for watching. If you need to review anything, once again there is a skip list in the description along with other links. Join the Ravager Den Discord server for talks of optimization about DMT farming as soon as DMT is out. If you like this video, I'd appreciate you rating it, sharing it, and or leaving a comment. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing and clicking that bell icon so you never miss another upload. And no matter what happens, I will always see you in the next one. Bye bye!